I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. This is The World Gone Mad. Welcome to the Friday edition. The part of the week where later in my podcast I share with you a segment called News from the Edge of Sanity. I try to put a smile on your face before you head into your weekend. But first, let me talk about the real news stories from the last 48 hours. Here we go. Reality packed a suitcase and left the country, and didn't even bother to send a postcard. And somehow we're all left here trying to sweep up the mess with a broken dustpan. Now, the first headline hits like a brick because the Supreme Court has now decided to take up whether Donald Trump can end birthright citizenship with an executive order. Let's sit with that for a second. Birthright citizenship. Not a small side note in the margins of the Constitution, but a cornerstone of the 14th Amendment. The thing that says if you're born here, you're American, period. Full stop. Good night. Good luck. But no. Trump tried to erase that with a black Sharpie, like he was editing a grocery list. And now the highest court in the land is treating that idea as a serious constitutional debate. As if the founders gathered around a candlelight table 200 years ago and said, "Yes, please let future presidents revise this with office supplies." The Supreme Court avoided this earlier in the year on a technicality. But now they're diving straight into the question, can Donald Trump, with one order, strip a constitutional right that legal scholars across generations say is guaranteed? Even the ACLU basically said, okay, let's settle this. Let's hope the Supreme Court justices can still read what the Constitution actually says, and not whatever Trump wishes it said. Scribbled in marker, underlined twice, probably misspelled. And while your brain is still smoking from that story, Florida decided to drop a different kind of bombshell. A federal judge has ordered the unsealing of grand jury transcripts and records in the Epstein investigation. Yes, the Epstein investigation. Documents that have been locked away tighter than the recipe for Coca-Cola are about to see daylight. And this didn't happen because someone felt generous. It happened because Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And the judge flat out said the act takes priority over the secrecy rules that normally guard grand jury material. Which means the public is finally going to see what's been buried for years. And a lot of very powerful people may suddenly need new lawyers, new excuses, and maybe new passports. Now, the next story is the one that forces you to sit down because it's darker, heavier, and now exposed as even worse than the original reporting. We now know the two survivors clinging to that capsized drug vessel, the Venezuelan vessel, the one blown apart in a U.S. military operation in early September, the same incident Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth swore didn't happen. It was a hoax. And then later retracted and said, we had no knowledge of the double strike. The survivors of that strike never had a radio. The survivors never had a communication device. The survivors never had a way to call for help. For months, defense officials told Congress and the media that the survivors were trying to radio reinforcements, and therefore that justified a second strike on two drowning men. But on Thursday, the admiral who ran the mission admitted to lawmakers, no, these two men weren't calling anyone. They weren't signaling backup. They were barely clinging to life, holding on to the overturned wreckage of a boat blown in half. The initial strike killed 9 people instantly, sent smoke billowing in the sky, and this left 2 men gasping for survival. And for 41 minutes, the U.S. Military Command Center watched, debated, and then chose to kill them. Allegedly because Pete Hegseth said, kill everyone. That's why people call it a war crime. And now with the new admissions, it's even harder to call it anything else. And remember, Trump and Hegseth went on air, mocked the reporting, called it fake, and then dismissed the story, only for the military to now confirm, yes, it happened. Yes, those men were unarmed, unreachable, and dying. And while that horror plays out, you've got J.D. Vance, vice president, brushing off speculation about his marriage like he's swatting away a fruit fly. But here's the thing. This isn't some random celebrity divorce rumor in a checkout lane tabloid. This is the Vice President of the United States, a man one heartbeat away from the Oval Office, dismissing questions about the stability of his own household. And acting as if it's beneath him, as if the public has no right to know, leaving us wondering if the second most powerful official in the country is telling the truth about his personal life. And only in America do we treat a vice president's marriage like it's a TMZ blind item. This happens while actual democracy is on the operating table, losing blood pressure. It's surreal because you're watching someone who holds enormous power act like he's dodging gossip on a reality show reunion special instead of addressing legitimate transparency concerns. It's not the story itself, it's the attitude, the casual shrugging off of accountability. That tells you exactly how this administration sees the American public. And just when you think the week is done, Netflix walks in and buys Warner Brothers and HBO. Netflix, the company that used to mail DVDs in little red envelopes, is now swallowing one of the most influential entertainment engines on the planet. Think about what that means. HBO, the home of The Sopranos, The Wire, Succession, and Game of Thrones. All those cultural earthquakes that shaped entire decades is now controlled by a tech company that treats entertainment like data and not art. Not TV legacy, not culture, just numbers on a dashboard. And Warner Brothers isn't some souvenir acquisition. Warner Brothers is Batman, Superman, Harry Potter, and the entire DC universe, plus a century of American filmmaking that defined the modern movie industry. This isn't a merger, it's a total shift in who holds the steering wheel of American culture. When a studio like that gets absorbed, you're not just talking about content, you're talking about control. Control of budgets, control of franchises, control of how shows get made, who gets greenlit, who gets canceled, and what kinds of stories even make it to your screen in the first place. Netflix doesn't think like a studio. Netflix thinks like an algorithm. It's not asking, is this important? It's asking, will this keep people watching for another 12 minutes? Pretty soon you'll turn on your TV, and every splash screen, every show preview, every recommendation will blend into one giant blinking eye that whispers, we own everything now. Please enjoy your content exactly how we want you to. This isn't the future of entertainment. It's the future of consolidation. So there it is, 48 hours in this country. The Supreme Court weighing whether Donald Trump can sharpie out part of the Constitution. The Epstein files about to crack open. A military strike exposed as even more disturbing than reported. The vice president deflecting his own tabloid tornado. And Netflix swallowing Warner Brothers like a mid-afternoon snack. Welcome once again to a world gone mad. Okay, Wolfpack listeners, it's time for news from the edge of sanity. These crazy, bizarre, offbeat stories exist in the world because, why the hell not? Let us take a trip to rural Scotland, a quiet place, a peaceful place, a place where life moves so slowly you can almost hear the sheep judging you, and a place where one farm shop still operates on something called the honesty box system. If you don't know what that is, it's the most charming and trusting business model on earth. You walk in, you pick up the produce or the baked goods you want, and you leave money in a little box. No cashier, no cameras pointed in every corner of the store. Just trust, faith in humanity, hope that nobody walks out with anything. And for the most part, it works because the customers are neighbors, locals, people who respect the shop. But then one morning, the owner checks the closed-circuit TV security system before heading into the shop. Just routine, just making sure everything looks normal, and she sees something. Something unexpected, something moving through the shop with purpose and confidence. At first she thinks, all right, maybe it's an early customer before I get there. Maybe someone popping in before work. Because that's the beauty of an honesty box shop. People come and go whenever they need to. But the shape on the camera's off. The height's wrong. The walk's unusual. This isn't a person. This is something else entirely. The camera pans. The figure steps into a frame. And that's when the truth hits. It's a golden retriever. A polite, well-groomed, very determined golden retriever who strolled into the shop as if she worked there. Her name, as they later learned, is Amber, a dog with the charm of a cartoon character and the confidence to go wherever she pleases. On the footage, you see Amber the retriever walk in. No hesitation, no looking around, no panic, just, oh yes, I know exactly what I came here for. Amber the golden retriever scans the shelves, nose working overtime, tail wagging like she's checking prices at a supermarket. And then she spots it, the prize, a Madeira cake. Amber the golden retriever pauses, leans in, makes her decision, takes the cake in her mouth, and walks straight out the door like a customer who's already paid and left a generous tip. No guilt, no fear, no second thoughts, just Amber, the thief, the shoplifter, the criminal mastermind, committing the cleanest theft Scotland's ever seen. And honestly, the only shocking part of this entire story is that she didn't stop to browse the scones on the way out. Somewhere right now, Amber's sitting in a yard, living her best life with crumbs in her fur, and absolutely no idea that she's internet famous, because she stole a cake from an honesty box shop and did it with more confidence than most human adults. Wolfpack listeners, that's your news from the edge of sanity. Hope you got a smile or two out of this story for your weekend. Friendly reminder, I'm doing a live stream show on TikTok. I've talked about it in case you're new and you haven't heard. I know some of you hate TikTok, you don't use TikTok, don't know what TikTok is, but I stream there live on TikTok Sunday mornings, every Sunday, 9:30 a.m. to 10 a.m., Tuesday nights and Thursday nights, 9:15 p.m. to 9:45 p.m. It's free. You just need to have the app TikTok on your phone or your computer. Now, I had several people write me and said they couldn't find my live stream there. You have to use the letter A in the title when you're searching for me on TikTok or anywhere when you share my podcast. You can't say to people, check out World Gone Mad with Jeff, or let me search for it on TikTok, World Gone Mad. You have to put in A World Gone Mad. Also, to the Wolfpack listeners, I still have my holiday fundraiser for my podcast to help offset some of the costs associated with doing this podcast for 2 years. My initial goal is to raise $1,500 before the holidays by the end of the year. To those of you that contributed, thank you. Those few dollars is a start. This is The World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. I'll be back Monday. Until then, Wolfpack listeners, remain skeptical, keep focused, but most of all, stay hopeful.